Another company that I would talk about on the show here, and a company that I featured recently in the show where we talked about the stocks that we were going to buy next, Bill.com. Bill.com reported for the quarter, and it was again another quarter of just what looked like impressive growth. I mean, total revenue was $42.1 million. It was up 33% from the fourth quarter of fiscal 2019. They saw a nice little bump up in gross margin, thanks to the business scaling and more volume going through the system. They served 98,000 customers at the end of the fourth quarter of fiscal 2020. That was growth of 28%. Processed $25.4 billion in total payment volume on the platform in the quarter. That was up 26% from the year ago. Processed 5.6 million transactions for the quarter. Again, I mean, just a business at the end of the quarter, they had 2.5 million network members. That was up almost 40% from the year ago. So again, I mean, for a business that's really focused in on that small to medium sized business demographic and helping tighten up back office operations, eliminate paper, create more efficiencies using that artificial intelligence. As a shareholder in Bill.com, I was certainly very encouraged by that quarter. Speaking of businesses that we each follow pretty closely, Matt, Green Dot also announced earnings last week. Tell me how that quarter went.
Well, it was pretty good, actually. Their revenue was up about 21% year over year, beating their own expectations. The primary driver of increasing revenue is, well, there's two, actually. There's stimulus checks, which kind of prompted a whole lot because they do prepaid debit cards. That's one of their big businesses.
Right.
That prompted a whole lot of usage of those products. But their banking as a service platform, which they let companies like Apple and Intuit and Uber use kind of their banking network, because they are a chartered bank, unlike a lot of the fintechs we followed, let them use their infrastructure to offer their own banking products to their customers and employees. Like the feature that allows Uber drivers to instantly get paid is powered by Green Dot.
Right.
So that revenue was up. And the real key thing to mention is that that's where you really want to see the growth momentum in Green Dot, because that's the higher margin of their revenue. So that's growing. Their margins are up. Their margin expanded by 100 basis points year over year, actually. The new CEO who took over a couple quarters ago, Dan Henry, is doing a fantastic job. And I know everybody was rolling their eyes at me every time I mentioned Green Dot when it was down in the 20s, earlier this year. And he's done a great job of turning the ship around since then, and really focusing efforts on the banking as a service offerings, which is where he should be focusing.
Yeah, and I mean, Green Dot was dealing with its fair share of challenges earlier on. But it's really been a tremendous year for the stock. I know that listeners appreciate you having been able to keep up with that, because they've made a lot of progress, and patient shareholders are really being rewarded in exercising that patience now. So it's great to see that success with Green Dot. What about MercadoLibre, Matt? This is a company that we've often referred to as the Amazon of Latin America. To me, that is just such a small part of the story. It feels like when you look at the fintech operations, the payment operations that they have there, not to mention things like fulfillment, logistics, and whatnot. But I mean, another just tremendous quarter from well, let's just call it the Amazon of Latin America, right?
Yeah, well, I call them like the Amazon and Square of Latin America all in one.
Well, it's not a bad combo.
It's kind of how I would put it, because there's really two sides to their business. There's the e-commerce platform, which is the Amazon of Latin America, and then there's the payments platform, Mercado Pago, which is kind of the Square or PayPal, if you will, of Latin America. The growth on both sides of the business was extremely impressive. This is not Amazon, where it's a really mature e-commerce marketplace. This is still in the earlier stages of growth. So I'd call this like Amazon, circa 2005. If I had to put a year on it. On the e-commerce side of the business, the gross merchandise volume sold on the platform was up 117%. So that more than doubled year over year. 205 million items were sold on the platform, which sounds like a lot, but go look up how much Amazon sold on its platform, and it'll seem like a tiny number.
Yeah.
On the payment side of the business, that's where it gets really impressive. They did $14.5 billion, US equivalent in payment volume, which, as we just mentioned, PayPal's numbers, that's about 1/20th of what PayPal does. But it's growing at an off the charts pace, 161% year over year payments volume growth. And the best part is that the payment volume that came from off of its e-commerce platform, is growing even faster. That tripled year over year. It's easy enough for Mercado Libre to use its payment to promote its payments platform to people already selling on its platform. To think of this as eBay getting people to use PayPal back when they were both the same company.
Yeah.
So, but it was tougher for PayPal to get people who weren't on eBay to use their platform.
Yep.
And that's kind of what you're seeing Mercado Libre doing a great job of right now. I became a shareholder during the pandemic, and I'd been meaning to pull the trigger on that one for years. I wish I had listened to myself a few years ago, but better late than never. And the recent results show me that this is still in the early stages.
Yeah, and I think for me, when I look at Mercado Libre, I mean, to me, it really is all about the boom in Latin America's middle class. I think even the room that they have still to run there. I mean, if you look at the numbers between 2008 and 2018, Latin America's middle class expanded from 33 million households to 46 million households, and making up a far greater proportion of overall households as well. It seems like that number is poised to continue growing, which obviously speaks volumes for the opportunity in front of Mercado Libre. Do you think, I don't, I tend to probably think not, but do you think there is ever the chance that they would spin that payment side of the business out as its own separate publicly traded company? Or do you feel like they would be better off keeping that in-house?
For the time being, they should keep it in house. I think I mentioned the PayPal eBay kind of example. I think when it becomes kind of a more mature business like PayPal and eBay were, where the growth within the platform is kind of limited at that point, things like that, then it might be worth looking at spinning it out. But for right now, it's a very valuable asset that they're doing a great job of growing alongside their core business.